Hi, I'm Tom Henriksen from the DevOps Online Summit, and welcome to our sponsor spotlight. Today, we have with us Kurt Anderson from Blameless, and Blameless is our platinum sponsor for this year's summit. So, Kurt, introduce yourself to the people here at the DevOps Online Summit.
Hi, everybody. I'm Kurt Anderson, and I'm the head of strategy for Blameless. So I try to help organize our product and where we are and where we're going in the future.
Excellent, excellent. So to kick us off, Kurt, why don't you tell everyone what Blameless is? Give us a little lowdown so everyone knows.
Sure. So Blameless is an end-to-end SRE platform. And by that, we mean that we help SREs and DevOps professionals improve their effectiveness in ensuring their system's reliability. And honestly, we don't care what title you have. You could be a production engineer, an SRE, I don't know, just a software engineer, maybe, depending on your team. But if you care about reliability, our goal is to make you more effective at that.
Yeah, you bring up a good point there, Kurt. It seems like as I talk to people in this industry, the titles are different from company to company. What they call, the person that does kind of this site reliability work might have a different title, don't they?
Indeed. And some of that's historical. Some companies have adopted this earlier before certain titles became popular. Some folks adopted titles and the implementation within their company maybe got a bad name, and so now the name is poisoned, and so they have to use something else. But really, the key that we find, and the reason our company is called Blameless, is because having that psychological safety for people to actually focus on the problems that occur and how to make the systems more reliable, more effective. That creativity and that innovation is unlocked when people don't have to feel like they're going to be beaten. When they blame and shame is sort of a typical human response, sadly. But if we can overcome that, at least in the professional capacity, it really unlocks the ability of teams to be more effective.
Yeah, that's so important, isn't it? That the people feel like they don't have to be concerned about, okay, what's people are going to think and what people say. So kind of creates an air of distrust.
Exactly. And so, I mean, you can't, a lot of these are psychological dynamics, and a platform can't deliver that. But what a platform can do is that they can help with some of the mechanical parts. So let's say you're doing incident response, as an example. Something goes wrong in your environment. And what you need to do is you need to get the right people together in order to respond to that. And you want to minimize the extent of the damage. You want to minimize the time that you're impacting your users or your customers. And so our one component of the Blameless platform helps you in automating that. So we will take, and with a Slack bot, soon to come a Teams integration as well. We'll help you fire up an incident, get a dedicated channel, and so these things can be tuned for your environment, a dedicated bridge or Zoom or MS Teams sort of video bridge, if you like, and then give you a checklist of, okay, here's the things that the incident lead needs to do. If the incident is big enough that you need a dedicated communications role, you can spin that off. You can split multiple tracks of response depending on how big your incident is. Our framework helps you do all of that, and then using the chat platform of your preference, and then collecting all the history of that along the way, so that when the incident is over, you can not have to cut and paste and do a lot of nitpicky work, but feed it directly into a retrospective where you can then focus on, okay, what can we learn from this? How do we improve our systems? so that this doesn't happen again in the future, or at least doesn't repeat itself exactly the same way.
Yeah. Yeah. I can
The other
see.
part of our, yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
I was just going to say, I can see where that seems like a real robust solution where it can help people out in, kind of resolving those things. And then like, it sounds like you could scale it depending on the size of the incident too.
Exactly. Yeah. A bunch of the stuff is tunable depending on the severity of the incident. You can define your own types of incidents.
Mm-hmm.
So, because everybody's got their own terminology, and we want to respect that and enable people not to just have to pick up a new dictionary off the shelf, so to speak, and change the way they refer to things. We have changed. One of the things we have changed in our own product is that we used to call the retrospectives postmortems, and we still have. There's a legacy in the industry of calling these things postmortems.
Yeah,
and there's been a bunch of back and forth and discussions, and generally people feel now like that's just a little too morbid. And frankly, I'm working on a talk for another conference where we're going to be talking about how in an emergency room setting, teams look at incidents after the fact. And of course, you can imagine in an emergency room setting, you want to be really careful when you use the term postmortem.
Yes. Yes. Very true. Very true. So what would you say, Kurt, is your target market for this application?
The target market, well, you have to kind of distinguish the customer who makes the decision from the folks who use the tool. As far as the people who use the tool, engineering teams, whatever title they may happen to have, but who are focused on ensuring and improving the reliability of their product. They're the main users, but we also understand that those engineering teams have management. And management is focused on the business value that they get, and that they can deliver, how their software value gets to their customers. And so there's an aspect of our product that we call reliability insights that helps to bubble up these aspects of the incidents and how the teams are responding and how things are getting better, to feed the need for information in management. So those are the two groups of users of the product per se.
Yeah.
The people who make the decisions, we're looking at mid and mid-market and enterprise level teams.
Yeah.
So we're looking for some larger teams effectively, and organizations that have perhaps some sprawl in their environment and want to try to unify that and try to come to some common understanding and common practices.
So with some of those insights, what are some of the things that you might be able to gain with some of those incident insights that you help with people with?
We try to give people something more than just what are called the shallow metrics of mean time to resolve.
Yeah.
Because honestly, when you boil something as complicated as incidents down into a single number or even two or three numbers, it just doesn't reflect the real complexity of our systems. Yeah. And it doesn't help management to make the right trade-offs. So we look at trying to characterize the breadth of the incidents. We have an extensive tagging capability that will allow people to cluster and group incidents depending on how they're looking at them, and then to summarize those numbers and then help to point out outliers. So let's say most of your incidents are over and done with within 15 minutes. We'll just pick a random number.
Yeah.
But once in a while, you got this outlier that's sitting there at 1 or 2 hours. The reliability insights help you to see, okay, where are those outliers? And then to be able to dig in and look at the retrospectives and see if you can understand a bit more about why they are outliers. So the other aspect of our product that I didn't talk about, because this is all very reactive as incident response and retrospectives, is that we have a product that works on the leading edge, where we do SLIs and SLOs, service level indicators and service level objectives. If you don't know the TLAs, or three-letter acronyms for people, or it's always kind of fun to throw in that extra TLA for fun. Anyway, the idea of service level indicators is to have clearly identify the indicators that correlate to, are your users happy or not? So ideally, if they're above some threshold for this indicator, whatever it may be, then they're happy. If they're below it, then your users are not happy. And of course, you don't want unhappy users.
Exactly.
So the goal between an SLI is what you're measuring. So let's say, I don't know, time to check out, hypothetically, we'll say an e-commerce platform. How long does it take somebody to go from a full cart to the order's on its way?
Yep.
And you can measure that total time. You can measure the total number of clicks that it takes. Number of different ways you can measure that. You can turn those into an indicator, and then you can say, all right, we've decided that if they can do this in less than 30 seconds, then they're happy. And this is obviously something that has to be worked out between engineering and product and your reliability team. It's not something that any single team can necessarily concoct on their own. You set that objective, and then you track how successfully are your folks, your users, achieving that objective. And it's a leading indicator because you can watch as people fail to achieve the target time, and respond before it gets to the point where, oh my God, too many people are having a bad time on our platform.
So then you can kind of see ahead of time. You could see a trend starting and say, "Oh, maybe there's something we need
exactly."
to
You can watch. There could be a big incident where, let's say, your shopping cart is down, and all of a sudden it's taking people 2 minutes, or they're having to be bounced to a data center in I don't know, Singapore, and all of a sudden your response times have gone up by a huge amount because of the two-way trip off to Singapore from the US, presumably. And you can see these things, and then you can take action before it gets too bad. Because you're going to say, let's say we want 95% of our users to be able to check out in less than 30 seconds. And so there's always going to be a few, for whatever reason, that don't manage to do it in 30 seconds. But if you start seeing too many of them, if you start burning that 5%, which I like to call the learning budget, you'll see in most of the literature it's called an error budget. But essentially that learning budget is your advance notice, time to respond and look at these things and fix something that may be going wrong before you get below the threshold. So
interesting. That's really helpful. I can see where people would really find that useful.
Yeah, exactly. Now it's not easy. I mean, I very glibly came up with this. 30 seconds to check out to your cart. Well, but maybe that's a sequence of 10 clicks or 20 clicks or on Amazon, 1 click. Well, obviously you reduce it to 1 click, bang, they're out of there. But if you got a multiple click service, somebody's got to verify their address and put it in another payment mechanism. Those are going to drive your times up. And do they cost? Do you want those to cost against your SLI? Maybe not. It can be very nuanced and challenging to define those well.
Yeah, very good, Kurt. Kurt, tell us what can people do to find out more about Blameless?
Well, first off, you can go to blameless.com. That's the easiest way. However, we also have a couple of folks who are going to be presenting talks here at the DevOps Online Summit. So I'd encourage you to come and watch those talks, interact with our speakers. And in the show notes below, there's going to be a link that will bring you to a landing page specifically related to the DevOps Online Summit.
Excellent. Kurt, you've really shared a lot with us. Any closing thoughts?
DevOps and SRE are complementary, and I'm really glad to see the SRE track here at the DevOps Online Summit. I hope that people will take the time to branch out beyond their kind of maybe day job responsibilities, because both DevOps and SRE have become forces to reckon with because they break down silos, and they are inherently collaborative. And so we should be collaborating with each other.
Good point. Good point, Kurt. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you, Tom, for having us. We look forward to the summit.
Excellent. On behalf of Kurt Anderson, I am Tom Henriksen for the DevOps Online Summit.